a six, a helping hand with your land.
Neil from Messick's here with two of Kubota's new LX series tractors to show you. These are two special machines that are on the way out to two very lucky customers. And both of them are equipped with a lot of optional kits and accessories, things that you don't see on a lot of tractors, things that are not well documented in the glossy brochures and corporate websites. So we're going to take a couple of minutes here, walk around these machines, show you their third function kits, swift hatch kits, self-leveling arms, B-series baggers, some of those really unusual things that you don't see on a lot of tractors. So we'll start with the most common of the kits on these machines, and that's the third function valve. Third functions are going to give you an additional hydraulic function out on the end of your loader. They're commonly used for things like grapples or hydraulic angle snowplows or hydraulic drive post augers, kind of opening you up into that world of attachments that you can put out on the end of your tractor. This is an OEM Kubota third function valve, a kit B7369. We're going to do some other videos specifically on these third function kits and the different options that are out there on the market. But for an OEM third function valve, there's a handful of things that you'll notice here that are a little bit different than some of the less expensive, say, Lampride or aftermarket WR long valves. We sell a lot of companies' stuff for these. The OEM ones are going to be a little bit more money, and in my opinion, I would say that's justified money for the most part. They're not just selling you exactly the same components from a different vendor. There's some additional thought and work that's done on these that you don't find on a more generic valve system. The most obvious of those is this big metal bracket right here. Generally, when you see these third function valves put on from these other companies, they don't have the specialized weldments and painted parts and everything in order to protect this from things that might come back and catch a hose or a wire. So you've got some additional brackets in place in order to protect the valve. There's also some things back here underneath. If you look at the electrical connectors and stuff, these are absolutely better weather sealed than what a lot of less expensive valves are. Speaking for the one that's on my own tractor, there's no weather sealing, there's no dielectric grease, there's nothing in those connections at all to keep them from weathering and corroding over time. So if your tractor sees the weather, if it sees wet conditions, some of the little things that they do on these OEM kits are worth the extra money. Another unique thing on the third function kits from these OEM vendors is you'll notice that there's hard lines out here on the end of the loader. When you put on the more generic third function kits, you're generally going to have hoses that you have to find a place to route back the loader boom, and doing that in a way that keeps those hoses out of harm's way can be pretty challenging. It usually involves like some zip ties and trying to get them up under the boom. In the case of doing this with hard lines, they can run these lines right along with the rest of the valving and everything that's used for the loader cylinders, and they're much more protected and out of the way. You'll notice these are capped off here at the end. One thing guys often overlook when they're putting on third function kits is that none of them generally include the hydraulic couplers to go down here on the end. These are going to vary depending on your attachment selection, so keep in mind if you're ordering one of these, you're going to want to make the selection of either flat face or Pioneer couplers and get those down here on the end. I'm guessing this guy's waiting to pick up some implements before he fits those couplers out here. The next of our accessory kits is the B2377 self-leveling loader kit. Now you see these extra arms here that run back the top of the loader. As this loader goes up and down, these arms are going to manipulate this pivot point right here attached to the hydraulic cylinder to keep that bucket level as it goes up and down. The one real big benefit for these things is for the guys that are doing pallet fork work. You can run your loader up and down, and as it goes through its arch curve, through its different geometries, that loader and pallet forks will stay level as it goes up and down. There's a little bit more complexity to these than just slapping these arms on the top. There's actually some hydraulic reliefs and stuff over here on the other side of the tractor that allow this cylinder to move as the bucket goes up and down. So more complex kit than you might guess, but starting to become an option on more and more Kubota tractors all the time. Our next accessory kit is the B2387 Swift Hatch kit. Swift Hatch is a standard equipment feature on the BX and the small B series tractor. It's going to allow you to release all of your hydraulic hoses with one lever and drop the entire loader off without getting off the seat of the tractor, being able to stay in the cab and reach up to latches in order to release that loader. Now, the cab does cause some complications for that, reaching out and grabbing these. Obviously, you can't do that from inside the cab, but there is some added benefits to how these things work. So when you want to go through and release all of your hydraulic hydraulic lines. You could pull this one lever up and all 4 of the lines pop right off on this large manifold, and they're just as easy to reattach again. It's a lot nicer and easier than fighting with Pioneer couplers. In the case of this tractor with this 3rd function valve, you would still have these 2 Pioneer lines to do down here. They go down to the 3rd function valve body, but that's the main manifold of the Swift-Attach kit. On the back side of the loader, rather than having pins to pull out to release the loader from the tractor, you have these 2 pawls. You simply pick the tractor up in the air, get the weight off of the loader, and push those pawls forward in order to release it from the tractor. Over on the other side is the latch to drop the parking stand. You could do exactly the same thing by rolling the bucket down, hitting that latch, dropping the parking stand out in order to have that loader self-support. So all of these things combined make for a much more convenient and easy removing experience for taking your loader off the tractor. Doing it with the pins, certainly it can be done. We do it on very, very many other tractors, but that one little upgrade is a significant convenience if you're going to be taking this loader on and off a lot. In the back right-hand side of the tractor here, you'll notice that there's a double stack of rear remotes. That's actually on both of these machines. This is going to add 2 levers inside the cab on your right-hand side towards the back a little bit. You're going to be able to operate one of these individual pairs of remotes. These are generally going to be used for things like transport wheels or dumping trailers or power down accessories on 3-point hitch post hole augers. There's a lot of different attachments out there that can be used that are going to utilize these rear remotes for additional hydraulic functions on the back of the tractor. If you're going to have to make a choice between all of these different kits that are on this machine, I generally would opt for hydraulics out the front of the machine before I worry about putting them on the back. We see these used much more infrequently than the options that are going to put hydraulic power out the front of the tractor. We did a video a couple weeks ago called The Most Luxurious Lawnmower, and I think we need to replace that tractor with this one. This is a big 3-bag system for the back of this series tractor. This is about the biggest machine that you can get that's going to take a factory 3-bag catcher on the back like this. This is the same bagger module that's used on the B and BX series tractor, just with different mounting frames in order to fit onto this larger machine. It has a different boot on the end of the mower deck, different mountings here on the back. Now these mountings are unique in that this allows the bagger to stay rigid on the back of the tractor while the mower deck moves up and down. Something you got to watch in these bagger systems that use 3-point hitch linkage in order to hold the bagger on the back. They tend to want to take the bagger up and down at the same time as your mower deck, and that can be kind of problematic. This has been a pretty proven catcher at this point, with 3 big heavy canvas bags, locking positions to keep the lid open, and a PTO driven fan over there on the side. I really like that PTO driven fan. It fits on the back of the tractor much more securely. It's a lot cleaner way to drive the fan than using a double stack pulley on the end of the mower deck. It also keeps the weight of that drive unit back here on the back of the tractor instead of hanging off the side of the deck where it wants to throw off the weight balance of the deck and make the thing cut sideways. This is the BH77 backhoe to go on the back of the LX series tractor. Now this is not unique. We sell a lot of backhoes on this size machine, but putting one onto a cab tractor is a little bit different, and it demonstrates some things here that I think are worth showing. You'll notice here that this backhoe has a separate seat. Most of the backhoes on this size tractor are going to be done with a swivel seat, where when you're going to use the backhoe, you'll have a swiveling carriage on the operator's seat that allow it to swivel around. In the case of this cab glass, that obviously causes a problem, right? So there's an additional kit that goes in here that sets this backhoe back about another foot further than the swivel seat versions do. Now, you can see here the one thing that you give up when you do that. When you have a 2-seat backhoe, it requires the backhoe now to be further behind the tractor, which makes the whole package longer and also makes your departure angles up and down a trailer a little bit more problematic. So this additional offset will take away from some of your ability to go up a steep trailer ramp. You'll notice that the plumbing for this backhoe is a separate hydraulic loop down here and does not use these rear remotes. This is a really common question that we get, that a lot of people expect that when you have a backhoe in the back of a tractor, you either need these rear remotes, or if you have them, you should be using them. I would tell you otherwise. So the right way to plumb a backhoe like this is off the tractor's main hydraulic loop, and that's the way this one is done. The tractor's hydraulic system runs in a gigantic loop from the loader through 3rd function kits and all that valving back to the backhoe and then back around again. In the case of going and plugging the backhoe into this rear remote right here, you'd somehow have to bungee that rear remote open in order to keep this thing flowing continuously. The valve bodies that are in line with this too also have a lot more restriction and porting and stuff in them in order to have that on-off functionality. When you have a tractor-powered Power Beyond hydraulic loop, there's no on-off. If the machine is running, that loop is running continuously, so there's no valves and stuff in line with it in order to restrict that hydraulic flow and heat up. So you'll notice here on this setup, even though these valves are here, we're not using them. You're doing it the right way and going off the Power Beyond. The LX series introduces a new tire option as well. These are R14s that I have wholly underestimated the popularity of. We traditionally have sold most of our tractors with R4 tires, and I continue to say for most people that's probably the best choice. But if you're doing a little bit more aggressive work, this R14 is going to give you a hybrid between that R4 and the really aggressive R1 ag tread tire. So this gives you a little bit more cleat, but it still has this center line on it here like an R4 does that helps it road a lot better. It doesn't give you that thunk that happens between a really deep ag tread tire. So these are now becoming an option in more and more of the Kubota models all the time, but it is now an option on the LX series as well. So I personally am a little jealous as somebody that owns a tractor of this size. It is awesome all the things that you can do with one of these machines, and they can be fully kitted out with all of these accessories. It allows us to sell these machines at a really aggressive price point when we need to. But if you want to take a Kubota tractor and option it up to the point that it has all of the things that this industry can offer, they've taken you there. The LX series has a lot of these accessory kits now that have not been available in other series. So when it's things like nice clean third function kits with hardline routing and swift hatch to drop that loader from the seat and self-leveling, these are all things that a lot of other tractor companies have not gotten into and are available in the LX series machines. So two awesome setups going out to two very lucky individuals that I think any one of us would be happy to get out and operate. So if you're going through the buying process for a piece of equipment, if you have any parts needs for machines you've already got, or if you have service work we can help with, give us a call at Messick's. We're available at 800-222-3373 or online at messick's.com.